about Japanese monster movies for a bit. There sure are a lot of them. Now, when most people think of Godzilla when they hear about Japanese movie monsters, it's important to note that there are a lot more Japanese movie monsters than just Godzilla. There's so many more, in fact, that movies about giant monsters or guys in spandex superhero costumes beating up monsters is its own massive genre in Japan, and that genre is called Tokusatsu, which means special effects television in Japanese. And seeing as how I'm currently trapped inside my own house by a giant monster, I think I might as well talk about my top 5 favorite Tokusatsu monsters from Japanese movies and TV. Now, keep in mind, this isn't an official list of the absolute best Tokusatsu monsters of all time. I'm not really the most qualified person to name all of them, and this is just my personal opinion about monsters that I personally like from things that I personally enjoy. Number 5 is Gyaos from Gamera, Guardian of the Universe. Now, for the longest time, Gamera was basically seen as the Pepsi to Godzilla's Coke. He was popular and people liked him, but he wasn't nearly as popular as Godzilla, and a lot of people saw him as inferior. But that all changed in 1995 with the release of Gamera, Guardian of the Universe, the first Gamera movie to be released in over 15 years. When this movie was released, the Godzilla series was kind of in a creative lull. Each movie was basically just a repeat of the last one with a slightly different monster and slightly different set pieces. So not only did this movie catch a lot of people off guard, but this was the first time that Gamera was truly better than its main competitor. Not only did this movie completely revamp Gamera's origin and mythos, which was something that Godzilla movies of the time were really afraid to do, but it also paid respect to the older films. And no place is this more evident than in the monsters that Gamera faces in this movie, the Gyaos. The Gyaos were one of the most popular monsters from the old Gamera series, appearing in 3 of the 8 original Gamera films, so it made sense to bring them back. But the Gamera crew went above and beyond the call of duty with the Gyaos, not only bringing them back in a superb way, but making them truly scary. And effects work on the new Gyaos is superb. Compare and contrast it with the old Gyaos, which was really stilted. The new Gyaos look really lively. Even their eyeballs move. The internal logic of the film also makes a bit more sense this time around. In the original, it was never really explained where the Gyaos came from, and the way they described it, it never really seemed like a creature that would actually exist in real life. Now, admittedly, any movie that's about giant flying dinosaur monster birds awakened by pollution is going to require some suspension of disbelief. But there's enough of a realistic edge to the Gyaos in this movie that you end up feeling more immersed in the movie as a whole. Definitely check Gamera Guardian of the Universe out. Number 4 is Barasaucer from Choriki Sentai O-Ranger. Now, before I describe Barasaucer, there's something I should clarify. O-Ranger is not very good. It's pretty terrible, as a matter of fact. The characters are dull, drab, and uninteresting. Their character arcs are non-existent, as well as their personalities. The story has no thought put into it, and the pacing is just the worst. It's really just a drudgery to sit through. That being said, it has some killer monster and mech designs, which makes sense. When the show was in a rating slump, they decided to add as many cool toys as possible, so the show would at the very least be a hit financially. Now, while I don't condone replacing characters and story with action and toys, I'd be lying if I said that the action and toys weren't the only reason I actually bothered to finish O-Ranger instead of just giving up halfway through. Now, where the designs truly shine the brightest is on the villain side of things. They're an empire of alien steampunk machines with an army of robotic monsters based off of common household appliances and utensils. Now, since they're obviously a group of villainous, world-conquering, evil machines, they only base their monster designs on the most threatening and villainous of household appliances, such as a vacuum, a faucet, a clown. Okay, so they're not all winners, but Saucer definitely is. Now, what makes this beastie so great isn't as much his design as it is what he does and his placement in the show. He appears in only the second episode of O-Ranger, which is the episode where the entire team gets their powers, hence he's the first monster that the entire team faces. His introduction is fantastic, rising up from the ocean, ripping out buildings from their foundations, and stacking them on top of each other as a monument to the machine empire. Now, at this point in the series, the team doesn't have their mech yet, so they have to fight Saucer bare-handed. The entire battle is a great showcase of what O-Ranger did best: epic action. And death-defying stunts. Though there are some rough effects here and there. As a final showcase of their new superpowers, the team blows away Saucer with a blast from their putting an end to his reign of terror. It's an amazing set piece with a great monster. What more could you ask for? It's such a shame that the rest of O-Ranger was such a drag. Numero tres, Bogal from Ultraman Mebius. I love Ultraman Mebius. It's a great return to the classic Ultraman shows of old, as well as taking the franchise in new and interesting directions. I'd say it's the best place for newcomers interested in the Ultraman franchise to start out, but it does kind of spoil other older seasons, and there's a lot of references and Easter eggs, so that's kind of debatable. Bogal is a nasty piece of work, hopping from planet to planet and sending out various lackey monsters to wear down the planet's defenses before consuming it. Bogal's the main villain for a decent chunk of Mebius, and along with it comes the show's secondary Ultraman, Ultraman Hikari. He's got a chip on his shoulder and a bone to pick with Bogal after it destroyed a planet he was protecting. Hikari chases Bogal to Earth, where his want for revenge brings him into conflict with Mebius, and let's just say Hikari causes almost as much trouble for Mebius as Bogal does. Bogal's design is threatening and creepy looking, like a giant gray bird of prey with a Venus flytrap for wings. It gets a different form later on after absorbing electricity, which is even scarier looking. Not only that, it tries to eat Mebius. The original Bogal is defeated pretty early on, but its effects are still felt throughout the entire series. Weaker clones of it, called Lesser Bogals, show up to menace the team at various points throughout. One of them even mutates into what looks like an evil inside-out version of Pac-Man. With the right design, a backstory that ties into one of the show's main characters, and a serious impact on the season overall, Bogal is definitely a monster worth remembering. Number 2 is Doris from Kamen Rider Z-O. Doris is the main antagonist of the Kamen Rider solo movie, Kamen Rider Z-O. Now, while Kamen Rider is very big in Japan, out of the four main staples of tokusatsu known in America, those being Godzilla, Ultraman, Super Sentai, and Kamen Rider is definitely the least well known here in the States. It's the only one of the four to not have a single series of it be released in DVD here in America. Because of this, I'll be keeping this section as spoiler-free as possible. Zeto was released in 1993 as part of a trilogy of solo Rider films, which also included Shin and Jay. They were made when the show was absent from its usual home of TV and were meant to spark interest in reviving the franchise. While it would take a while before Kamen Rider returned to TV, the last two films of this trilogy were very well received, but Zeto is by far the best one. Again, no spoilers, but the plot concerns a young boy being hunted down by a vicious cyborg insect monster called Doris, and having to be protected by the film's title character. Doris is a mean machine, mercilessly hunting the kid down, never letting up. He has the ability to take any metallic object in the area and turn it into a new body part if he loses any, meaning he can constantly regenerate himself in battle. He's very menacing as well, never speaking or showing signs of being reasoned with, just cold, icy determination to achieve his villainous goals. His battles with Zeto are some of the best the franchise has ever seen. The choreography is fantastic and fast-paced, as well as the stunts and wire work. Doris always seems like he has the upper hand in battle, making him a looming, ominous shadow over the film's proceedings. Definitely give this movie and its monsters a look. Number 1. Godzilla from Shin Godzilla. Shin Godzilla, or Shin Gojira if you're a purist, was released just last year and has not been made available on DVD in the States yet, so I'm going to avoid spoilers for this one as well. While the Godzilla franchise is beloved by many, including myself, taking a look at my DVD collection will make that abundantly clear. Even I have to admit that the Godzilla franchise has kind of been running in place for most of its lifetime. The Godzilla movies have opened up a universe where almost anything is possible, but so many of the movies feel kinda stale. Seriously, the amount of Godzilla films that have the exact same plot and story beats as previous ones is staggering. I kind of blame this on the filmmakers, though I can understand why they're doing it. They're afraid to take risks with the franchise, so they end up sticking to the comfortable formula that they know works. Because of this, while Godzilla has been around way longer than any of the other big Toku franchises, it has the least amount of variety. However, we may be starting to see an end to this creative slump. I had the privilege of seeing Shin Godzilla in theaters last year, and I was blown away by the chances that this film takes. It takes everything we think of when we hear Godzilla and turns it on its head, creating a distinctly original and frightening creature. Some heckled this movie's version of Godzilla's design for his weirdly disproportionate body parts, but I have to respectfully disagree. Godzilla was a mutation, and that aspect of his origin is explored the furthest in this film, and I think that's conveyed well in the design. While I know not every fan likes the new additions to Godzilla's power set and origin, I have to commend the filmmakers for trying something new, especially after 50 plus years of very samey movies. The rest of the film complements this new version of the Big G by being just a really well thought out, interesting, and engaging drama about people trying to fight back against an unstoppable threat. Again, no spoilers, but even the usually boring human side story, which, if we're being completely honest, is really the main story, has a very interesting spin placed on it that makes us truly invested in the human characters, in a way that almost no other Godzilla movie has been able to pull off, except for the first one. Out of all the movies and TV shows that I've recommended to you on this list, Shin Godzilla is definitely the one you should check out the most, even if you're not a fan of Japanese monster movies. That was fun. Speaking of which, though, I should probably check to see if King Ghidorah is still outside my house. Yada! I mean, yay. Well, that'll be all for today's video, folks. See you next time.